Guys, take a look at this cool pen I got. It's got 4 different colors. Isn't that amazing? I got it for pennies on the dollar. I got this pen for pennies on the dollar. Do you know what that means? That's an idiom in English that means cheap. I got this pen for cheap. Guess how much I bought it for? Hi, dog. Good morning. Look at those nice dogs over there. So, guess how much I bought this pen for? It was regular price, $2. I got it for 50 cents. Right? So I got it for pennies on the dollar. That means I got a great deal for it. Okay. The intrinsic value of this pen is higher than what I paid for it, right? So do you know the word intrinsic? The word intrinsic means like the inner, something inner, the inside of something, right? So if we talk about intrinsic value, we're talking about what something's value is inside, right? So I could say human beings are intrinsically valuable, or human beings have intrinsic value. Why? Because humans were made by God, right? The breath of God is in our lungs, right? We were made as like portraits. There's a plane ruining my video. I can't even see it. It's too cloudy. We're like portraits of God. We're made in His image. So humans are intrinsically valuable. Even if someone doesn't value another person, right? Like, let's say everybody hates you. Nobody thinks you're important. Nobody thinks you have any value. Does that mean you don't have any value? No, you do have value. You have ultimate value because you have intrinsic value, right? So that's what the word intrinsic means. So, you know, or I could ask you a philosophical question. Are humans intrinsically good or intrinsically evil? Right? That's a kind of a question sometimes people debate. Are humans at their core, in their heart, right? Are they good or are they evil? So we're talking about the intrinsic nature of humans, right? So this pen, you know, what is its intrinsic value? You know, it's more than 50 cents, right? So I got it for pennies on the dollar. I got it for really cheap, right? Now, what is a penny? Do you know what a penny is? A penny is a 1 cent coin, right? A 1 cent coin. Now, do you have pennies in your country? In Canada, we don't have pennies. And in the US, I think in the US they still use pennies. But we Canadians, the Canadian government, phased out pennies maybe 10 years ago, I think. If something gets phased out, that means it's no longer in existence, right? The government sometimes, or a company, might phase something out. It means it goes extinct, right? It kind of dies over time. Maybe not right away, over time. Okay, so here's an example. Apple is phasing out the lightning port on iPhones. All iPhones are going to switch to USB-C over the next period of time, right? So if you bought the iPhone, what is it, 14 or something, you know, that's probably the last iPhone that will be made with a lightning connector. Now it's switching to USB-C like most other phones, right? If you have a Samsung or a Google or, you know, all those other kinds of phones, then you already have a USB-C connector on your phone. Apple always does things a bit weird. So Apple is phasing out their lightning connector. So this year, in a few weeks, Apple is going to announce the iPhone 15, and that is going to have a USB-C port, right? So they're phasing out the lightning connectors, right? So the Canadian government phased out the penny. It was, I think, over a period of time where they said, okay, now you can't use pennies anymore. You can't buy any. I don't think you can buy anything with pennies anymore. Guys, look at these geese and ducks. Hey, it's like a combination of, look at that. There's like, these guys are ducks here. And then the tall ones over there, I don't know if you can see it very well in my camera, but the tall ones are the geese and the shorter ones are the ducks. Hey ducks. It's just a beautiful morning here. Peaceful morning in Alberta, Canada. It's about 8 a.m. Or I could say it's about 8 o'clock. You can't say both of those together. You can't say it's 8 o'clock a.m. A lot of people make that mistake. If you make that mistake, no biggie. No biggie. It means it's not a big problem. You know, but just remember, if you use AM or PM, you cannot use o'clock. Okay, so you have to choose either to say o'clock or AM or PM. Now, the problem with saying o'clock is it doesn't tell you if it's evening or morning. Like if I were to tell you right now it's 8 o'clock, would you assume that this is evening or it's morning? You know, what do you think? It's kind of, I don't know, it could be evening, it could be morning. I mean, you're not here, you can't breathe the air. For me, I know it's the morning because I can feel it. It's a bit chilly and just the feeling of the morning, you know. But maybe for you, you can't tell by looking at the sky and whatever. You can't tell if it's morning or evening. So that's why it's better to say AM or PM rather than o'clock, because it's more specific and you avoid miscommunications, right? So if I tell you right now it's 8 a.m., that's good because then you know it's in the morning. I don't need to say o'clock, and you know exactly what time it is in my video here. So it's about 8 a.m. and just walking along here teaching you guys an idiom. Okay, pennies on the dollar. A penny is a coin, a 1 cent coin that the Canadian government phased out, I think it was 10-15 years ago. So a penny is, I mean, if you think about that idiom, pennies on the dollar, okay? Let's say this is worth $1 and I got it for just pennies. That's why we say pennies on the dollar. It's a weird way to say it. You know, with most idioms in English, you have to say the idiom exactly that way. Every word in the idiom exactly that way, okay? So you have to say pennies on the dollar. You cannot say penny on the dollar, or pennies of the dollar, or pennies in the dollar, or pennies on the dollars. No, pennies on the dollar. It has to be exactly that way. Okay, so most English idioms are that way, where you have to say each word exactly the same, exactly that way, okay? You don't have any options, you don't have any flexibility in that. Otherwise it kind of messes it up, and you know, people probably would still understand you, but you know, it's better to speak with clarity, right? So yeah, so pennies on the dollar, it just means that you got a good deal. Something is maybe less value than its intrinsic value. So for me, I think 50 cents for this pen. Look, it's 4 pens in 1 pen. How much would you pay for a pen? Maybe $1. So each one of these could be $1. So this should be like $4, but it's not, right? Some people are coming over the bridge here, guys. I'll walk this way. You can see the nice sunrise there through the clouds. Okay, so pennies on the dollar. Now, you could also use this in a negative way, where if you're selling something and you take a loss, then
go in through the side of the eye, and that's called vision. And how much is in the eye?
Is that guy talking to himself? Was that guy talking to himself? Or was he listening to like a podcast? I'm not sure. But let's say you sell something and you lose money. Then you could say, I only got, I got pennies on the dollar for it. And that's a bad meaning. Like, let's say you bought this pen for $2 and the value went down and you needed to sell it, so you sold it for 50 cents. Then you could say, yeah, I only got pennies. I got pennies on the dollar for it. That means that's a bad thing. You lost money. Now, if I buy it for pennies on the dollar, that's good for me, right? So what's good for me might be bad for you. And it's the same with any type of thing if you buy, right? So like, let's say this house. Wow, that's a nice house there, isn't it? Let's say you buy that house for like $1 million, and then the economy goes down and you need to sell the house and you need the money, so you sell it for like 500,000. Well, then you sold it for pennies on the dollar, right? You bought it for expensive. You were hoping it would go up, but it went down. Now you need to sell it. You need the money. So you sold it at a loss. You sold it for pennies on the dollar, right? You know, we can also use this idiom to compare things. Need some water, guys. My throat is a bit dry. So, you know, if we're comparing things, I could say, you know, house prices in Albania are pennies on the dollar. That means I'm comparing house prices to here in Canada. Okay, so if I want to buy a house in Albania or some country, right, I could say house prices over there are pennies on the dollar. So here, like, that's the comparison is that here they're $1, overseas they're pennies, right? I'm not sure what house prices are in Albania. I'd say for probably like a house, I mean, foreigners aren't allowed to buy. Actually, I'm not sure. A lot of countries ban the sale of property to foreigners, right? So I don't think I can buy land in Albania, but I could probably buy a condo, maybe. A lot of countries are like that. Like in the Philippines, for example, in Thailand, you're allowed to buy condos. Foreigners are allowed to buy a condo, and a condo just means an apartment. It's just another word for an apartment, basically. So you're allowed to buy condos, but not land, right? So I don't know, overseas, you know, I don't know which countries, I haven't looked into it that much, but some countries allow foreigners to buy land, some don't. So I don't know if I'd be able to buy a house in another country like this, but let's say, you know, I bought something like this overseas for, you know, maybe like $100,000 or 200,000, and let's say here in Canada it would be like $1 million. Then I could say house prices in that country are pennies on the dollar. Pennies on the dollar, guys. So are house prices in your country pennies on the dollar compared to Canada here? Oh, look at that nice Canadian flag right there. These nice houses here. Someone watering the grass over there. And Well, guys, that's it. Just wanted to teach you a new idiom this morning. So guys, hope you're doing great as always. I love you so much. Hope you're staying healthy and happy. And from here in Alberta, Canada, good morning, and I'll see you over in the next episode of Mad English TV. Take care.